Last week, we talked a bit about doing retouch for the fall foliage, but I wanted to take a step back for this one and go over the process that I go through when I've taken pictures at an event. This is the Harvest Festival at Fort Ticonderoga. And as you can see, I took a lot of pictures, ended up with somewhere around 1,000 photographs. And I like to take multiple photographs, as you know. Part of it is when you take pictures of people, whether they're posed or not, people can blink. Um, when you're doing an event, they might be talking. And having those multiple images means that you get the opportunity to have something where they're not blinking, for example, or where their mouth is closed. So I've gotten pretty good at doing bursts of four, as you can see in this set. And that also makes sure that I've got a color template, a version of that image that um, I can use as a reference point for the colors. If you don't have that, if you just have a single shot, you can go up here to photo in Lightroom, down here to create a virtual copy, and it creates a copy with a little turned page symbol at the bottom. And that way you have your reference there as well. Now, you can use the X and Y to set up a selection in a candidate image and then walk through them that way. For me, it's just as easy to make my thumbnails large so that I can just stack them up. And because I have multiple images of a shot, if I shrink them down enough, I can get an idea for the general part of the image. And then what I can do is I can click on it. Now, Lightroom allows for a second monitor, and I have a BenQ uh, calibrated monitor so that I can see the image. So that gives me the entire image on the screen, and I can just go through and use the arrow key to skip from image to image so I can look at it on the big screen and see that grouping and see what I like. So in this case, I took a picture of uh, the guy selling war cannon whiskey, and he started out just standing there. Now, that's all I was doing was just doing pictures of the event. But he said, "Hey, let me grab a bottle." So I had him grab a bottle, and I took a picture of him holding that bottle. Uh, Ladies selling from Adirondack Winery next to him, same thing. They grabbed a bottle and I put it up. But let's take a look. So once the image is captured, I take my CFX or my CF Express card and I download them into Lightroom. Now, one of the things you didn't see is the import process itself, which is pretty straightforward. You find the directory and just have it import them. Lightroom is smart enough to know that if you've already imported images, like for example, you forgot to clean your card off and you took more images, it won't try to import those other ones unless you specifically tell them to. At that point, you can also set a preset. I don't like to do that for the simple fact that there may be specific things I have to do with this set of photographs that I don't have to do with the other. And while a preset can give you a good starting point, I would rather just take the images that I see and make the changes to it. Because they're in a burst, I'm not going to want every image, and there'll be differences from image to image. So I typically don't use presets um, on event photographs. If I was in an enclosed environment, and just taking portraits, for example, I might throw a preset on it at that point because everything's going to be exactly the same. But when I'm taking things outside, lighting changes, the sun comes out, the sun goes away. There's a lot of variations that I can get in the image. So once I've got it, I want to go over here and I want to take a look and I want to make sure that the lens was recognized as well as the camera. And the reason for that is there are preset changes that Adobe makes to certain cameras or lenses to take out aberrations. Now, when you're talking a 24 to 70 millimeter, like I used here, that 24 can get kind of a fisheye look to it. And Canon creates a fix for that so that the image gets flattened out. So you come down here to the lens corrections and make sure you've got your chromatic aberrations and your profile corrections are in place. And again, as you can see, I didn't have to worry about it too much because I saw in the other screen that these were taken in, used the right lens and camera in there. So I don't have to worry about it too much in here for this purpose. But now, as I said before about having your reference. So we watch this here, and if I go to 100 on the contrast, look at how the grass changes. The box changes, everything changes color. Now, while that's a good color for the grass, it kind of darkens everything down. It modifies the faces a little bit. I'd actually have to go up here to exposure and bump the exposure up a little bit. Still looks pretty good, but I don't usually go that high on a contrast. Double clicking on these will put them back to where they were. So let's go about, let's say 30, 35 on the contrast. That looks pretty good. I might step it up just a little bit because it was a cloudy day. We can do the highlights and shadows now. When I do these, I hold down the Alt key on the Windows. I think it's Option on Mac. And I just check to make sure that I'm not crunched too much to one side. And as you can see the histogram up at the top, there's a lot of white out there, and it was a lot of white in the sky, a lot of white around. So it was a lot of light bouncing. If we look at the blacks don't go all the way over. They are up. So we bring it back just a little bit. And what that's doing is it's filling the histogram up. It's making sure that the entire dynamic spectrum is filled with data. Now let's take a quick look here between vibrance and saturation. If I do saturation all the way up, look at these boxes. Right, we're going to zoom in on the box. It looks orangish. Take that out. Now, if I up the vibrance all the way, you see how it's not as orange. And that's because there's just certain things that are going to get improved based off of which ones we use. There's certain parts of the color spectrum that's going to work. So again, watch the grapes. We go all the way up on that. Look at how vibrant the grape color is. But if we just do the vibrance, it pulls them up, but it pulls up the midtones. So it's not pulling up the entire spectrum of colors. So certain things will look as they were before. And as you can see it, having vibrance up that high, look at the text on the pamphlet in the back. Not done as badly when we do saturation, but you'll notice there's color changes in the text of that with saturation up. But the vibrance just seems to make it look smudged, blurred, like it was ink that water had hit. So we'll probably go up a little bit on the saturation just to bring a little bit more color in there. And again, we're going through and doing each piece. For those of you who need to set the white balance, you've got this little eyedropper over here. Find a target neutral, which is usually more toward the grays, and you click it, and it changes your white balance. And you'll notice everything got a little bit warmer in color. But again, what we're doing here is we're just going through at this point and playing with the photograph. Then we can come out of that, go back to our library, We've still got that photo highlighted, and we can bring those thumbnails up, and having that reference image allows me to see what the changes actually were. Okay, Adirondack has now become a little bit more orange. The box is a little more orange. There's a little more life to the picture than the raw photo had. And now it becomes a question of not only is the reference photo the colors that I want to use, or were those the colors that I remembered seeing at the event? And actually, I think they went a little bit more toward the orange, but not quite so much. So I'll need to go back into this image and make some modifications to it to just tone it down just a little bit. And that's probably going to be if we take out the vibrance, we still have that orange. So that orange is actually being brought in by this contrast. So if I back the contrast out, interesting, it still looks, oh, I'd have to back everything out here because somewhere along the way, yep, it was probably the blacks that took out some of that red. We'll take the vibrance out as well. So we're back to the original image except for the white balance. So between the white balance change and a little bit of the contrast and me moving these blacks and whites around didn't seem to do much to it. But you can see that the image does look a little bit more orange than we had before. So again, part of that is due to the warming of it. If you pay attention to her top here, how it looks a little bit different colored than here. This looks a little bit more gray. This isn't. And that's that warming that happened because of the change in white balance. And that changed the top as well. And of course, anytime you have something that you're doing in develop and tint and temperature change, you're going to have these kinds of changes to the color that you see on the screen. But once done that, I hit P to take it as a pick. It comes up flagged as pick, and I'm good to go. Then I go on to back into the library, go find the next set of images that I want to work on and walk through them one at a time. If I have a series that are outside that are very similar, I don't think I've got much in the way in this particular set that are that similar. Well, these kind of are. These outdoor shots. I can go through and take one that's been edited. So let's take one and throw, well, there we go. So we've got this one here. Now, there a lot of them are the same shot, but let's go down here. We'll assume that they weren't the same shot. We're going to take that. We're going to go to sync settings, and I'm going to allow all of that to come through. The lens corrections are all done automatically for them, and we're just going to synchronize those images. Now you notice how blue the sky is here, and you're going to see that now get applied across everything, and you now have a good amount of color around as well. Now, again, doing this, I lost my reference image, right? Because the original isn't there anymore. You can always go into develop and click reset when you have a stream like this, which will put it back to its original coloration. And then you can come and look, and now you can see that the haze is back. The sky isn't as blue. The colors aren't there as much. So you can see the difference that the change made. Again, I can use the sync settings instead of using a preset to copy those changes that I made to the other image across all of them so that they all look the same. Now, the nice part about doing something like that, again, if your images are all similar enough to do it, is it gives you the same feel across all of them. And another thing you can do when you're doing these images is you've got a whole bunch of curves and things we're not going to go into. I'm trying to keep this at a basic level. But we do have these midtones, highlights, and shadows that we can do with the color grading. So we're going to go over to this image here. Now, what if the highlights were more blue? And that's what we get. We get a bluer sky. Everything looks a little more blue. Now, if we took the shadows and brought them up to be a little more warm, which puts it on the other side of the scale, it looks hazier again. It looks yellow again. So if we reverse these two, for example, you can see the change in the image. It almost looks like golden hour with the color of the water down here and the way things are. Golden hour was nowhere near this, but with color grading, something for you to play with, allows you to go through and do some of these changes. And again, like everything else, you can always double click. Come on. The center point, and it should drop it back to 0 so that you've lost all of that color grading that you've done. Sync settings also allows you to bring in that color grading so that you can copy that color grading from picture to picture to picture. So if I'm doing an outside, for example, of the um, Fife and Drum Corps when it was doing its music festival, I could go through and take multiple pictures from different angles of them doing different things. And then once I've got one that I like, I can pick the other ones that I want. So I'm not grabbing everything. That also will give me those copies that don't have the color changes to them already that I can use as references. I can then go down here and filter to just the picked photographs. And that will allow me to put those all together, then take that one that I liked the color grading and all the changes that I made to it, sync that settings across the other picked photographs that I've got. And then I've still got those reference photos when I expand it back out again to make sure that nothing got changed color wise. Again, when people do reenactments, they are very particular about the way their outfit looks, the color, the buttons, everything. And I don't want to take away any of that effort. So when I make the changes, I want it to look exactly like the way they had put it together. But that's my basic process. I just wanted to go over that a little bit this week so that you could see, take the pictures, I import them into Lightroom. Another thing that you can do to make your life a little easier is, so this is my Fort Ticonderoga one. I've got a 2023. I've got Harvest Festival. If you set up your collection in advance, then you can go into the import and have the images imported directly there. Now, that doesn't mean that they aren't also going to get put onto your drive in a folder based off of dates, for example, like these images here are from February 18th, 2023. So you will still have them in a folder by date, but I found it just is so much easier to take the images, put them here. Then if I've got even images that I have where they're like these flowers that I took the pictures of, I can go back and say, okay, now that I've got the Harvest Festival, and let's say I took some pictures of the flowers there, I can just take those images and move them over and put them into flowers. In July, I'm sure I took flowers. I took pictures of everything, multiple shots of people and things and places, and I'll have flowers in here. And those flowers, I can then bundle those together and say, okay, copy those to my flowers collection, so that I can then go back later on and look at the flowers and pick out flowers that I might want to use someplace else. So, in addition to coming up with a process for modifying your photos, and if you're going to come in and load it with presets, think about how you wish to gather your images together. Now, this is a Fort Ticonderoga library. So there's a complete library on my machine for just Fort Ticonderoga that has thousands and thousands of pictures in it and will build as time goes on. As you can see, I've got all the way back to 2020 in here. So think about how you're going to organize it before you do your import. Because if you work that part out first, you can just take the images, drop them in there, and then you don't have to worry about moving them around later. And make sure it's something that makes sense to you. If dates are what makes sense to you and you figure you're going to be able to find things better by date, then always stick to date. If having a particular place that you take pictures and then breaking that down to events that were going on and breaking it down to years like I did here helps you out, then go for those as well. Again, some of these photos were just taken at a particular time. There wasn't an event going on. I just went up, so I collected them as to where things were being done so that I could figure out later on where I want to find them what image it was. Now, this was Memorial Day weekend, which, again, when you're uh, doing an import, naming them, adding any kind of meta information you want to add to it, the more that you can do up front on the load, the more time you save yourself later on. You can always go back and use the sync button, which allows you to put a whole bunch of additional information in on your photos, including copyright and things, but you don't need to do that in every case. So all you have to do here is just go in and grab your uh, basic information, make sure that your collections are set up, and then walk through all your images. And that's what I got for you guys this week. And I